Hey guys, it's David from theunlocker.com. Today we're going to do a quick phone review of the Dell Streak. If you're not already there, head over to theunlocker.com, spell like that in the address bar, and search for our phone review of the Dell Streak. So the Dell Streak we have for review today is a retail model bought from Dell.com, specifically for the United States. It has AT&T's 3G frequencies in it, which is 850 and 1900. Those frequencies also work on Rogers in Canada. And it has 2100 megahertz built in as well, so if you head over to Europe and you want to use a European SIM, you can, and most European countries you'll get 3G as well. So there are two ways you can purchase the Dell Streak here in the United States. One is with a contract from AT&T for about $300. The other is you can purchase it for $550 from Dell.com without any contract. Regardless of which way you purchase it, the phone is locked to AT&T here in the States. So if you wanted to use it for T-Mobile or say Rogers in Canada, and also if you use it on T-Mobile you won't get 3G, you have to unlock the device. Using an unlock code, you can get it from AT&T, from some third-party website, etc. Okay, the first thing we need to talk about with the device is its sheer size. It's a polarizing factor that either makes people love it or hate it. It's either, that's a huge phone, that's awesome, or that's a huge phone, it looks ridiculous. So, to compare it to a few other devices, put it next to, say, a Nexus 1. Put it in your hand, you can see the difference here. Fits in your hand. They still both fit in your hand, it doesn't really matter, but for a phone, it's pretty ginormous. Now, since most people do, I'm going to do it as well, to compare the size to an iPad. I personally do not think that this is an iPad in any way, or a tablet in any way, shape, or form. To me, it's a phone. It just has a huge screen. Fits in my pocket, runs Android the same as my Nexus 1, etc. So, to me, it's a phone. I'm just going to kind of call it a phone throughout this entire video. Okay, first we talk about the hardware of the device. It's got your basic features of any high-end Android device, say the Nexus 1 or the Droid or any of those type of phones. It has 1 GHz Snapdragon processor. It's got 512 megabytes of RAM. It has a capacitive touchscreen with capacitive buttons down here at the bottom. It is missing a button that most Android phones have, which is the search button. It replaces it by hitting the menu button and then search on the screen. Also, on the back, we have a 5 megapixel camera, which is kind of becoming the standard now. Dual LED flash, which is nice to see. The other thing that I like that's not usually on Android devices or high-end devices, period, nowadays, seems to be the dedicated camera button. I like that because you can hold it down slightly to adjust the focus of the camera and then push it down all the way to actually take the picture. It also can launch the camera as well, so it's the quickest and most natural way for me to take a picture because it works like a regular camera. We have a power button here, which also turns the screen on and off, a volume rocker, 3.5mm headphone jack, and then we have our large capacitive display. Now the difference between this display and say a Nexus 1 and etc. is the sheer size. It's a 5-inch display with the same resolution as those other devices, just much more space. Another feature that's cool that this has that only the other phone that I can think of that has it is the Evo 4G, is a front-facing video camera. This is used for video conferencing, if you really wanted to take a self-portrait picture, etc., which I'll show you the video conferencing later. Another thing regarding the size of the device, I've noticed in public that if you hold it like this, nobody says anything. The minute you turn it like this, and you either try to type on it like this or put it to your ear, people start to look at you a little strange because they don't understand what you're putting to your face. It is large enough that it does kind of look a little strange, but if you don't mind people kind of just being like, what is that, then it's not too bad. It does fit against your face and you can talk on it. I didn't really mind it too much, but I definitely got a few looks, so something to think about when you get the device. So the hardware of the device is pretty much up to par. It's what you would expect with a high-end Android phone, the 1 GHz Snapdragon processor, the half a gig of RAM, etc. The part that's not so up to par would be the software. Android 1.6, especially with Dell's customizations that I guess they thought made it better, to me made it worse, is just not really where you want to be. Granted, you can upgrade to 2.1 using the method I told you about on our site. It doesn't come directly from Dell though, so it takes a little bit of hacking to get it on there. But once it's on there, it's a vast improvement over 1.6, but it still needs a little bit extra. Now, it could just be me coming from an Android 2.2 device like the Nexus 1. The phone does not seem slow by any means, but because I've come from that 2.2 device, I know how much faster it could be if it had 2.2 on it with its JIT compiler and whatnot. So that kind of leaves something to be desired. You kind of want 2.2 on here, knowing how fast it would be and how much faster it would be than even 2.1. But because you do add 2.1 onto the device, you do get some of those benefits that I was missing when I had 1.6, which are like live wallpapers, a new gallery app, which is the one from the Nexus 1, which is a lot nicer than the 1.6 gallery app. You do get some other things like the widget for controlling, the power control widget is what it's called. It controls your Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, etc. Contacts have been changed a little bit, and also the phone dialer is nice. It resembles more of the actual Android phone dialer, which has the call log and the contacts, etc. up here at the top, which is a lot better than what Dell had on there originally, so I kind of like that. Another benefit of 2.1 over 1.6 is the browser. Is the regular Android browser from 2.1, so it is a little bit quicker, does function a little bit better, has visible bookmarks, screenshots, etc., which is nice. Also, Google Maps. Google Maps loads up and has added features like pinch to zoom, which it didn't have in 1.6, so that's another also nice feature. The market's been updated as well, and a few other the regular differences between 1.6 and 2.1 make it that much more usable. The software feature I do like is the new keyboard. If you tap on something here, you get a full QWERTY keyboard, whereas before with Dell, and this is a Dell's skinned keyboard, before with Dell you had the keyboard came to about there, and then you had like a number pad here on the side, which made it a little bit smaller and a little awkward because you had to type over the side, which was really annoying. So I'm glad that they fixed that here. But again, a regular Android 2.2 or 2.1 keyboard for me would work a lot better. It would also have the voice option where I could tap there and speak to it and it would type for me, where this just doesn't have. Something I did like about the device that kind of stood out to me over other devices, if you read ebooks, it's a perfect size for like a little tiny book. So when you go to, let's say, Kindle, for instance, there's plenty of ebook readers out there, but I'm just using Kindle on the phone. You can tap on a book you want to read. You can do options. I can change the size. This is the standard size that it normally comes with. I can also change background, change the brightness. Let's put it all the way up. And you can flick through and read your book, and it's a comfortable size. Again, you can change the font size like I did, but because it's such a large phone, the words are a lot bigger, regardless of what size you're doing, comparing it to the same size on a different device. So that's kind of nice. It makes you feel like you're actually holding some type of e-reader. So that's just a little thing I noticed that I kind of like. Another cool thing that Street can do that the only other phone I know that's Android that can do is the Evo at the moment, is video calling appropriately. Now, any Android phone can do video calling using the backside camera. As you can see, this screen here shows what the phone itself is seeing, and this is showing what the other phone is showing you. So you can see on the Streak, what I'm displaying from the Streak to this device is the front. A little bit of lag, but it's not too bad. On this device, the Droid, you'll notice that it's showing black because the screen it wants to use is the back. Alright, so that's a feature that this has, the Dell Streak has, because of the frontward-facing camera that other Android devices besides the Evo don't. Now, if you had a friend with a Dell Streak and an Evo, you guys could talk to each other and see each other just fine. This is also going to become probably a standard feature, the frontward-facing camera, because of the such success with the iPhone 4, I'm sure. So more and more phones, Android phones, will be able to talk to each other and actually see this. In the meantime, I use video calling sometimes, and if they don't have a frontward-facing camera, they can at least show me stuff. which is kind of a neat little thing. But again, the front-facing camera kind of makes it a true video call. But with that in mind, there are a few things that I don't like about the update, and that's that it's still very much Dellified. You have these little boxes around your icons, which I don't see a point in. They just kind of make them all look a little goofy, in my opinion. We have the status bar up here at the top that normally you just pull down in Android, and has that fun little, you know, like a window shade effect where it kind of slides down and slides up with a little bounce to it. It has all your notifications. You can pull it down immediately as soon as you get a notification. Dell decided to cut the status bar up into pieces. We have the time and the date up here, which is normally there. The date isn't, the time is. They put this here, which when you tap on it, gives you quick access to your settings, which isn't too bad. This kind of brings up your recent applications, which is redundant because if you hold down home in Android, it does the same thing, so I don't see a point in that. And then this here is your applications, and you can hide more or less. Now, I don't like this as much as I do, like, say, the launcher from Nexus 1. I guess it's functional. The way I guess they thought about it was because it's in the status bar, I can open an app and then open a different one directly from it without having to go home first. So I can understand why they did it, but to be honest, I'd rather have the regular status bar with the notifications in it. Because the other thing is, too, when I get a notification, it takes up the entire status bar, and I have to wait for it to finish notifying me before I can click here to bring up the notifications. As opposed to in regular Android, as soon as I see that notification come up, I can immediately pull down and show it. Just a little something that kind of bothers me. The other thing is that this notifications is all squished up. I don't know why they didn't just make it the entire thing. Again, let me pull it down and have it be the full screen. Just something Dell did that I just think is kind of pointless, but whatever. And the icons kind of bother me, like I said. The other thing I don't like is how they spaced out all the icons here, instead of letting them be normal size, and you could get a lot more. The 1.6 version of the Dell ROM actually had more icons available per page. They weren't spaced out like they are here, so you could fit a lot more. But for some reason, when they went to 2.1, they decided we're going to space the icons out and give you a little less space, which again is another problem. You do have the option to tap down here now to get to different screens, but it's again pointless because you could just do this. Yeah. And then something that I did to kind of fix some of these issues, which you can do as well, so I'll let you know about that, is I installed ADW Launcher, which you can get from the market. I said do this by default. And now it gives me my Nexus 1 type interface with my normal launcher. The icons are actually, I can actually change how many columns and rows I have on the home screens. The icons no longer have the stupid gray background. I can resize widgets, which is cool. So that's a neat little trick to do in order to kind of get over some of those Dell issues that I have with the phone. Okay, another issue with the software on the 2.1 version of the device is the camera app. We'll launch that here like this. It's the stock Android 2.1 camera. I'm not sure if because this is not an official release from Dell, if they just haven't put their camera app in here. Their actual camera app from 1.6 was a little bit better than this. It had a few more features, like using the front camera, zooming, which all of this kind of lacks. You have some options here that you have to tap on that, which is sometimes hard to get to come out in order to access, so that's a little annoying compared to, say, the new 2.2 Android camera app, which had a lot of functionality. A lot of different options here. They're all directly on the screen, so they're easy to get to, including a zoom option, which is nice. Something 2.2 would also bring is Flash in the browser, which the phone just doesn't normally have. But again, that's kind of an issue that all phones are struggling with right now, is upgrading to 2.2. I personally don't want Dell's upgrade, but they say they're coming out with an Android 2.2 upgrade for this device at some point in time. But I don't want all of Dell's little things in here like they have on these, their keyboard and all that. I want the original Android 2.2 if it were me. But either way, the Dell's update, their official update, will bring a lot of new features to the device, like Flash, like the JIT compiler, which will make the phone run a lot faster. the new camera app, and a bunch of other cool new features that 2.2 kind of brings. The only real selling point to this phone, since it has pretty much the same features as any other smartphone device and it costs a little bit more, is the frontward-facing video camera, but again, that's also on the Evo. And basically the large screen. Like I said, it's the polarizing factor here. Either you love this large screen or you hate it because it makes the phone so much larger. But I personally like the large screen. It makes web pages look nice. Easier to read, easier to navigate, which is nice. Apps actually do the same thing. It actually kind of stretches them to make them bigger without losing too much of their quality. Right, so it works pretty well. So I like that about it. It's definitely the screen is kind of the big selling point with this phone. Other than that, the only real issues I've ever had with this phone are the software being either outdated or Dell just kind of mucking with things. But as being part of the Unlocker.com, and if you're a reader of the Unlocker.com, you'll know that software can easily change. So I know personally that there's a few developers, third-party developers, not ones that work for Dell, but third-party developers that are working on porting over Android 2.2 AOSP, which is an Android open source project, which means it won't have any of Dell's stuff in it. It'll just be Android 2.2 like you get on the Nexus, and I'm kind of excited about that. I think if that was on this phone, it would be a great device. And again, though, if you like the large screen, because again, that's the polarizing factor. I've had people hold this thing and think it's a joke because it's just so large. I personally don't mind it. Holding it to your ear does look a little bit weird, but it's not terrible.